Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing Dumper's Remorse, the fading F.A.B bias exposed. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing Dumper's Remorse, the fading F.A.B bias exposed. So if you've been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you need your ex to feel remorse. Luckily for you, there is a phenomenon called the fading F.A.B bias. In today's podcast, I'm going to be connecting Dumper's remorse with the fading F.A.B bias in 3 points. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is what is the fading F.A.B bias? So the fading F.A.B bias is the theory that negative memories fade sooner over time in comparison to positive memories. So let's try and break that down to be a little bit more simplistic. So if we're to consider that you've had an equal amount of positive memories and an equal amount of negative memories within the same kind of time frame, then if we were to move forward 6 months, 9 months, a year and beyond, the likelihood is that those negative memories would have faded in your mindset sooner than the positive memories which were brought to your attention at the same period of time. So if you have negative memories, if you have positive memories, if you experience this in a similar time frame, the negative memories are going to fade sooner than in comparison to positive memories. Now, this doesn't mean that you are going to completely forget these negative memories. It doesn't mean that if something bad happened or if something bad happened to you, that you're going to completely forget about this. No, what it means instead is that the value of these memories fades sooner in comparison to positive memories. So when we consider this fading F.A.B bias principle, you can probably connect it to a very well-known phrase that lots of people say, which is, "You're wearing rose-tinted glasses." And that is almost a comparison of a fading F.A.B bias. If you, for instance, were to be speaking with somebody and maybe you're talking about a party that you both went to many months ago, maybe a year ago, and you're speaking to your friend and your friend says, "Yeah, that party was pretty good, wasn't it?" And you think to yourself, "Wait a minute, I'm pretty sure that at the time you were telling me that you didn't enjoy the party and this annoyed you and that annoyed you and this other thing annoyed you." And maybe your friend then thinks about it and says, "Yeah, maybe." And then you say back to your friend, "Look, I think you're wearing rose-tinted glasses. That party was not as good as you seem to remember." That is a classic example of a fading F.A.B bias. This person, in this example, your friend, is thinking about a party which it sounds like that they suggested at the time was not very good, they didn't enjoy, but now, many months or a year later, they're just focusing on the positive aspects of that party that they do still remember more vividly. And whereas they're not going to completely forget the negativity, they will be putting that to the back of their mind because the value of these negative memories has reduced. Negative memories fade sooner over time in comparison to positive memories. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast about Dumper's remorse, the fading F.A.B bias exposed. And point number 2 is, how does this connect with Dumper's remorse? So now I've explained to you the principle of a fading F.A.B bias, we can now connect it to Dumper's remorse. So if you're a dumpee, if you've been dumped, if you want to try to get your ex back, you need your ex to feel that remorse. You need your ex-dumper to reconsider their position from right now being broken up with you to evolving that mindset to when they want to reconnect. They need to feel remorse and regret for their choices, for their decision at the time of a breakup. You need them to be thinking, "Look, I made that choice then, that was a bad decision." And we can connect this to the fading F.A.B bias because whatever happened within your relationship, those negative memories are going to be fading and losing their value much sooner than the positive memories. And therefore, what we can connect in this situation regarding a breakup and trying to get your ex back is that unfortunately for you, the dumpee, your ex, the dumper, decided that the relationship wasn't working for them anymore. They decided they wanted to go on their own path. They decided they wanted to experience life in a new direction away from the relationship. And this is because they lost romantic emotional attraction for you. Now, why did they lose this attraction? Well, it could have been for various potential reasons, but quite possibly it was due to some specific instances, maybe some specific situations where in hindsight you might look back and think, I wish I hadn't have done that. That was a bad thing I said. That was a bad choice I made. I really wish I hadn't behaved in that way. Now, if you're in this position, dumpies, if you are regretful yourself about certain things which took place, but you did or you instigated or the way you behaved, then your ex-dumper at the time would have lost romantic emotional attraction for those behaviours, for those situations, for those instances, and potentially that was the main contributing factor to them deciding to end the relationship. So now let's fast forward a number of months, if not years. And what we will see, connecting to the fading effect bias, is that your ex-dumper is likely to not have forgotten about your behaviours and the way you treated them potentially in the past, but the value of those negative memories is going to have reduced in comparison to the positive, great memories you share together. So what we can see when we connect the dots here is that if you want to try to get your ex back, you're going to need your ex-dumper to feel remorse. And they're more likely to feel remorse if when they look back on your relationship, they see it through rose-tinted glasses, you could say. They're seeing and remembering all of the positive things, all of the great things you enjoy together. Those things are still going to be shining bright many months, if not years later, whereas the bad times, maybe things you did or you said, or maybe just some generalized relationship troubles that everybody may go through, those things are going to have lost their value to a greater degree. So when people say memories fade over time, negative memories fade much quicker and lose a lot more value in comparison to the positive memories. And this is why it can really help you, because if you want to try to get your ex back, like I said, you need your ex to feel the remorse. You need them to be looking back on the relationship and feeling regretful, thinking, what, it wasn't that bad. I ended the relationship, but I remember all of these wonderful times now. I remember all of these great instances. And yes, I can kind of remember the difficult times, the challenging times, maybe things that my ex-dumpee did or said. But, I wasn't perfect myself, and I look back on those moments as not really being as bad as what I kind of thought they were at the time. That is the fading effect bias taking place, and that is what can really help you as a dumpee get your ex-dumper to move into a position where they start to feel remorse, because they look back and they're not really entirely sure why they ended your relationship, because they just remember the best times shining much brighter. And if they're going through a potentially negative, difficult, or mundane time right now, which those negative memories are going to be shining very bright at this point in time, then they'll be comparing this to your relationship in the past, and instead of remembering the bad times there, more likely remembering the positive, great, exciting times, comparing that to their boring, mundane, frustrating, maybe negative current position, and deciding that they've made a big mistake, deciding that dumper's remorse is something they're going to be experiencing now, because if they think of it in this way, they're going to be very regretful for their decision. Now, if you would like support moving through breakup recovery, if you would like advice in trying to increase the chance of getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. Go to my website, www.dateme.tips, for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about dumper's remorse, the fading effect bias exposed. And point number 3 is, could the fading effect bias affect me as well? And the answer to this is yes. The fading effect bias acts on us all. And therefore, when you're trying to reconnect with your ex, when you're trying to think, look, I'd really love if they contacted me again, I want to try to regrow this connection, you need to be understanding that the fading effect bias could have played on you as well, And therefore really consider, is this a relationship that you actually want to reconnect with? Now, as a dumpee, you're probably thinking, yes, I definitely want my ex back, but you must understand that if you've been dumped, you are feeling rejected, and there is nothing more attractive than rejection. If you've been dumped, then you're going to be feeling low value, and you're going to be feeling that your ex is on a pedestal, and you would do anything to bring them back to your life. But try to look past these points, try to look past the fading effect bias, making you think that your past relationship was all sparkles, wonderful, and rainbows, because unfortunately, life is not always like that. Unfortunately, life can be challenging at times, and unfortunately for you, you were dumped. So you need to be focusing on whether your ex-dumper is actually somebody you want back in your life. Now, I'm not saying they're a bad person because they ended your relationship, but you must realise and look at the fact that unfortunately you were not compatible at that point the breakup took place. Your ex-dumper made that choice. Now, was that choice just from their perspective? Or if you look at it more deeply now, do you think, well, actually, we wasn't that perfect a match that I actually thought we were, and they've dumped me and they've hurt me, and I'm kind of feeling negative about a lot of things, but they've made me feel that way. So, should I really want them back in my life? Or alternatively, should I move forward in a way where I focus on trying to make new connections? Now, I'm not here to tell you what is best for you and what you want. Maybe you definitely want to try to get your ex back. Maybe now you're thinking, maybe I want to try and find somebody even better. Look, it doesn't really matter, because ultimately, the only thing that counts is happiness. Happiness and fulfillment is the only metric you need to be basing your life upon. And that is why via my audio coaching service, I will walk you through the journey of trying to increase the chance of getting your ex back. But if you don't, it will put you in a better position to try and find somebody even better. So it really is win-win. Either try and get your ex back or try and find somebody even better. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.